Let's see what is functions. Function is a subprogram which performs a specific task. So in C, a program can be divided into n functions. So each function is a subprogram and each function performs a particular task. That is, if at all a program has to perform say 5 operations, in that case each operation is being defined as a function and it can be performing that particular operation. So that is, it makes debugging easier. Instead of combining all the 5 operations in one main function, you create a separate function for each of the operations, and when each of the operation is being, that means one function is defined, you can debug that code easily. So let's see when and why we have to use a function. So as earlier said, for debugging it is easier. So we would have seen a program to add two numbers. I'm taking a simple example for you to understand a function. So if at all you have a main program which adds two numbers. So it's quite obvious, you can write up this code within one main itself, you can create it. Okay, enter two integers. So integers, read it. So you're reading it using scanf statement, storing it in its respective locations. Sum is equal to a plus b, and you're going to print it. So this is a program, a simple program which has only one function, main. So here you can have the output statement which says a plus b is equal to the sum values, right? So a comma b comma sum. So this program, that is, to perform the same task, we can have a function created. So in this particular program, we observe what is the operation being performed? Addition, right? Addition is being performed. Let me create a function which performs additions of two numbers. That is, this particular part of this program should be put inside a function. That is, to perform this particular task, create a function. So how do we do that? I said you're going to create a function. So let us not worry what is there in function and all. So what is the executable statement that has to be put in function is sum equal to a plus b, right? So this I'm going to put it in one function. So so before using sum, I need to create that sum. Okay, so this particular operation, that is addition of two numbers, is now put inside a block. Now there should be a name to a function. The user defined functions should have a name. So obviously any function will have a name, but you need to give a name relevant to the intended task. So here let me give the name as add. So that's the function name. And then since every program will definitely have a main function and a reading part will be usually in main, or you can have another function input to read the numbers as well. As of now, let's not worry about that. Let's assume that main function reads two integers and gives that to the function, and this function will add or find the sum of those two numbers and gives the result to the main function. So I repeat, what are we trying to do is, from main, read the input, pass it to the function. The function will add or give the result of adding to these two integers to main function. So that's what we are going to perform. Simple. Here obviously you should have int a, int b. So it will look quite different, as in main we have no arguments, whereas in this user defined function add there are arguments. Arguments are nothing but the inputs that are received from the calling function. So that's been taken, and sum, so now a, b and sum are local to this function. So now after finding the addition, you have to return this result to main function, which is the calling function to this add. So when you are returning something, you should keep in mind you can either return a variable, a constant, or an expression. So in this case I am returning a variable. When I am returning a variable, the return type of the function should reflect the type of the variable that you are returning. That is, the return type of the function should be the same type as that of this variable. What type is this sum? Sum is being declared as int. So the return type should also be int. Okay. So now what is happening? This function is taking input from the calling function. With respect to this example, it's main function. A and b is received, and it creates another variable sum to hold the addition and performs that addition, and the result is in sum, which is being written back to function, calling function. So now when we go through the flow or trace the program, here we need to observe that you have declared these three variables which are local to main. You have read and you are adding. So instead of adding is what you have created this function. So this statement should be replaced with the function call. Function call is the function name along with the inputs that you want to pass it. So what are you trying to pass? The inputs are the two integers which is stored in a and b respectively. So that a and b is what you have to pass to the function, right? So function call, so the flow of execution moves to the function now. This ab, now you will need to keep in mind that the variables ab here is different from ab here, even along with the sum. So when this statement is executed, you have ab sum with locations. Say suppose this is stored in 1010, this is stored in, I'm just taking contiguously with respect to integer, keeping in mind 16-bit machine, 2 bytes I've considered. So it's been allocated some memory, and say suppose the user enters 5 and 6. So it's been stored in its respective locations, and now add. So here what's happening, it's a function call. The flow of execution or the control of execution is now moved to the function. When it comes here, int this a, b and sum are being allocated in different locations. That is, it doesn't refer to the same variable. Say this is in something, this locations, okay? It need not be contiguous location, it can be different, but as of now I am taking it like this way. So now what's happening, int a, int b. So here what are you passing? 5 and 6 is passed. That 5 and 6 will be copied to this a and b location. So that's what is happening when you call a function. The actual parameter values are copied to your formal parameters. So 5 and 6 is stored here. Next, sum has been created. Now add. So 5 plus 6 is added. Where it is stored? The result 11 is stored in sum. Return sum. When you are returning something, that is 11 is being returned back to the function. When it is returning back, there should be a provision to hold that value. So that should be done with this sum, because you're trying to print sum. So you take this sum is equal to, so just equate the function call to this sum variable. So what happens when that 11 comes back? So we all know that assignment operator works how? First right hand side is evaluated, then the result is being stored in the left hand side variable or operand. So here 11 is coming back with this return statement execution. 11 is returned and that is getting stored in sum. So that 11 gets stored in this variable which is at this location, right? Next you are using. So in this particular example, what are we trying to do? From input, from the main function, you read the input, pass it to the function. When you are passing, what is happening? The actual parameter values are copied to formal parameters, which is stored here, copied here. Why is that? Because this a, b and sum are local to add function and this a, b, sum are local to main function. Hence, so the control of execution moves to the function and the values get copied here and the operation is performed. Then the result is being returned back to the calling function. Hence, the function call is equated to a variable to hold the result. Then it's being used. So this is a simple example for a function.